Breaking up with a partner may be excruciatingly painful, as anybody who has been abandoned knows. Even if you've just been with someone for 3 to 5 months, you may sense how much your heart aches and how empty life might appear. Imagine you've been together for 25-30 to 35 years, maybe you've even had 2 to 3 children together, and you've spent half or more of your adult life with this person, and now you've broken up. It shouldn't be too difficult to picture this, given that around 47% of marriages end in divorce. True, around 70% of divorcees remarry, but second and subsequent marriages are more likely to end in divorce than the first. Marriage is an odd thing, but ultimately, you don't need to be married and divorced to feel the sorrow of a shattered heart. Being abandoned in high school or college is sufficient. Did you know that heartbreak may be fatal? The most widely held misconception about love is that it is a heart-related emotion. The reason for this is that when we fall in love, especially when we are near the person we love, a primal impulse known as fight or flight kicks in, causing the brain to instruct the kidneys to produce adrenaline and noradrenaline into the circulation. As these hormones reach the heart, they induce it to beat faster because the body needs to deliver more blood to the organs that may be used to fight or run, such as the arms and legs. This abrupt rise in heart rate might give you the sensation that your heart is constricting. But, if none of this were happening, your heart would be oblivious to the fact that you are in love. In reality, the heart is only a pump that circulates blood throughout the body. For example, just as unneeded digestive activity is slowed down in the fight or flight response, so is digestive activity, generating a constriction in the stomach and intestines that can cause a feeling of butterflies in the stomach that is common in infancy. Yet, when it comes to love, no one ever mentions the love organ, being the small intestine or whatever. As you can see, we must abandon the association of love with the heart. Love, like all other emotions, begins and ends in the brain, but it has different impacts on different sections of the body. Many of your experiences begin to make sense when you learn that love is tied to the brain rather than the heart. For example, what you feel during love is quite similar to what substance abusers feel when they use substances like drugs, alcohol, or cigarettes. When you fall in love, the bonding hormone oxytocin is produced, causing you to create both oxytocin and happy chemicals like serotonin and endorphins as you spend time with your lover. These are expressions of affection. They help you feel better throughout a romantic relationship, but this creates an addicted loop. You want to secrete more of these hormones as you feel better, and your body begins to want them. The more hormones you emit, the more attached you get to that person, creating a loop in which you crave more hormones at the same degree of sensation. This cycle repeats until you achieve saturation, at which point it becomes an addiction. So what happens if you break up with your beloved? The primitive regions of your brain that float in these chemicals don't grasp separation and continue to need them. Meanwhile, you know they're gone, but your mind cannot control the basic regions of your brain that continue to send messages, prompting memories and impulses that force you to look for and find that person. But it's pointless since they're no longer there. When your heart is figuratively crushed, an actual event occurs in your brain that affects the chemistry of your brain. When the triggering element is no longer there, your body can no longer secrete sufficient levels of oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Your body has biologically and mentally accustomed to that hormone level, and your cells cannot operate properly without these hormones. Your physique begins to degrade, and grief agony triggers the same sections of your brain as physical actions like punching or feeling fire. As a result, the discomfort of separation creates pain and ache all over your body. Whether it's love or being assaulted by a hunter, your body must deal with all of these aches, and morphine is the first substance that comes to your assistance. I'm not talking about synthetic morphine, which is used to make drugs, but rather endogenous morphine, which is created by your brain and is also known as endorphins. They are used as painkillers and medications legally in hospitals or illegally on the streets to try to ease your pains, but it is a gradual process that cannot be rectified overnight. As a consequence, your body must deal with physiological abnormalities in the near term, and high levels of cortisol, also known as stress hormones, begin to be released. This helps your brain to more quickly access the sugar it requires to deal with increased physiological activity, but it also elevates your blood pressure by narrowing your blood vessels. When you are experiencing grief, you must take more and deeper breaths, giving you the impression that you are fighting to breathe or are ready to have a panic attack. This is what causes you to feel as if your heart is restricted while you are in love or experiencing heartbreak. At the same time, catecholamine levels like as adrenaline and dopamine rise fast in response to anxiety and stress. As these hormones are produced, your heart rate changes abruptly and rapidly, giving you the sensation that your heart is squeezed, exactly as it is when you are in love. These catecholamines, however, have an intriguing side effect. In a detox film, we learned that every molecule, even water, becomes hazardous at a certain dosage. The toxicity dosage is directly determined by the type and amount of molecule you are exposed to, as well as the manner in which you are exposed. When catecholamines are delivered in excessive amounts straight from nerves to the heart, they cause the heart muscle to stiffen, reducing its function. Furthermore, the elevated levels of adrenaline in the bloodstream force blood vessels to constrict, boosting your blood pressure. Again, your heart needs to work harder to pump the same volume of blood, so hormonal changes induced by sorrow add to the strain. This can create spasms in the coronary arteries that supply the heart, preventing the heart from receiving adequate nutrients and oxygen. As a result, the hormonal changes generated by sorrow reduce the heart's capacity to acquire the additional nutrients it requires to perform under stress, and all of these variables work together to progressively reduce the volume of blood the heart can pump with each contraction. When this amount falls below a certain level and these chain reactions intensify, a person suffering from heartache may experience heart attacks and thus death as a result of the excessive emotional burden, a condition known as broken heart syndrome, which occurs due to the weakening of the heart muscle caused by emotional stress. In Japan, where the condition was initially found, it is known as Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which translates to octopus trap, since the hearts of persons suffering from severe grief, particularly the left ventricles, grow like an octopus trap. As a result, sorrow alters the form of your heart. I always express it in terms of pain, but heartache is not the only reason. Excessive stress at work or school, excessive amounts of activity, in short, things that strain the heart can also cause this. Apparently, shattered heart syndrome is not a common occurrence. This condition accounts for only 1% to 3% of all myocardial infarction cases, those who suffer heart attacks. Yet, 70 to 80% of this tiny percentage suffers from heart attacks as a result of emotional stress, such as grief. Furthermore, it appears that this issue impacts women far more severely. Since women account for around 90% of occurrences, particularly postmenopausal women. The most plausible explanation is the increased catecholamine production caused by the estrogen hormone I discussed before. If you're under the age of 50, you need not be concerned about dying from heart disease because only approximately 3% of these rare occurrences occur in those under the age of 50. As previously said, love may create a panic attack while enduring heartbreak. You may feel like your breath is short, your stomach hurts, and your heart is racing, but the likelihood of these symptoms developing into a heart attack is low, especially in young individuals. Love, on the other hand, does not have to kill you in order to pain you. Your strong psychological load, such as depression, might create major physical difficulties. There are several steps you may take to keep love from overwhelming you. First and foremost, recognize that what you're experiencing is completely natural and universal. As the phrase goes, there is nothing to fear in American life, just things to understand. It is the moment to learn more so that we can be less afraid. Listen to the master and recognize that feeling inadequate, useless, inept, alone, depressed, or furious following a breakup is very natural. These feelings are felt by everyone in some fashion. Although it may not always look that way on the surface, some substantial changes in your lifestyle may occur following a split. For example, you may be unable to do some of the activities you used to do with your spouse, such as going to the movies or to the park, and disrupting your normal schedule might place additional strain on your psychological health. As a result, you must establish a new normal and habit for yourself. Perhaps you can pick up new interests or make new acquaintances. Lastly, you might attempt to tackle the questions and feelings that you have avoided. Instead of focusing solely on your sadness and hoping it would go away on its own, consider thinking more thoroughly and introspectively about your previous relationship. Since they are all maturing processes, such as how did your ending relationship make you feel? What can you learn from this relationship and its demise that will help you decide what you want or don't want in your future relationship? Is your relationship truly healthy, or are you romanticizing it because it has ended? These are critical questions, and lastly, seek assistance. On this channel, I frequently highlight how people view psychiatric diseases as a bogeyman. Wouldn't you go to the doctor if your liver, kidneys, or stomach hurt? Why not get assistance when your head hurts? Opening out to friends and family, or visiting a professional therapist, can at the very least minimize your sense of loss and provide you with a sense of direction. These are not deplorable or repugnant behaviors. People are social animals, and social ties have a physical impact on human psyche. There are physicians for these sorts of issues. Don't be hesitant to seek assistance. Remember that your brain is actively attempting to overcome the physiological impacts of heartbreak while you are consciously dealing with these feelings. At this period, your brain's neuronal connections are changing and your hormone levels are being monitored. All of this is part of your recovery.